This is the most deadly transportation accident in this country since February of 2009.
The investigation ramps up. 20 people dead after a limousine plows through an intersection in Schoharie County. We have live team coverage.
What we know about the cause of the accident and the road where it happened.
The heartbreaking stories of the victims, including a young couple married just months ago.
It was just very obvious that they were, incredibly in love with each other.
And CBS 6 investigates what officials are saying about the role the limousine and the driver played in the crash.
It was a stunning tragedy this weekend. 20 people, most of them celebrating a friend's birthday, dead in a violent, destructive crash involving a packed limo in Schoharie County.
We have extensive team coverage tonight of this horrific event. CBS 6's Tori Wells, Steve Majiri, JT Fetch, Lindsay DeLucia, and Emily DeFisciani are all standing by with special live reports, and Ann McCloy is also live with us in the studio.
Angelo Santa Barbara, the assemblyman there, just told us the 17 limo passengers killed, all from the Amsterdam area. We start with Tori Wells, who is live at Troop G State Police in Latham tonight, where police gave us an update just a short while ago.
Liz and Greg, so many questions that people are still looking for answers to tonight, but this is a massive investigation, not just locally, but at a national level. So it's going to take some time to get all of those answers. Tonight, police tell us they are still working to notify some of these families.
We are learning new key details right now about the heart-wrenching limo crash that claimed 20 lives in Schoharie County. State Police and NTSB providing key new information this afternoon that gives us insight into the crash, the limo company, and much more.
We have updates tonight from a big team of reporters. JT Fetch, Tori Wells, Lindsay DeLucia, Emily DeFisciani, and Leanne DeRosa are standing by live tonight. First, Liz Bishop is in our breaking news center with what we know right now.
And Greg, as the investigation into what happened begins to ramp up, much of the spotlight is on the vehicle itself. Governor Cuomo pulled no punches today, saying the owner of the company had no business putting a failed vehicle on the road, that the limo had failed inspection and the driver was not appropriately licensed. We have since learned the owner of the limo company was an informant in an FBI terrorism sting. And just over an hour ago, Prestige Limousine announced it was voluntarily taking its fleet off the road during the investigation. The crash site just off the intersection of Route 30 and 30A has been an active scene all day long. Shortly after 1 today, state police cleared the area completely to do some intensive drone mapping to help with the investigation of the accident. And heartbroken family members have confirmed for us the names of more victims of Saturday's crash. We now have been able to identify 16 of the 20 people who lost their lives. 26-year-old Amanda Haltz was on the trip to Cooperstown with her boyfriend, Patrick Cushing. And healthcare coordinator Amanda Rivenberg was also killed in the crash. And we have just learned that one of the bystanders struck by the limousine was a visiting professor of geology at SUNY Oswego. His name was Brian Huff. Those are the latest developments, and we turn now to our team of reporters who are ready to take you behind the headlines. Greg and Ann.
And we start with this. At a news conference at 4 p.m. today, State Police and the NTSB chairman briefed reporters on new details about the investigation and the owner of that limo company.
CBS 6's JT Fetch is live in Latham at State Police headquarters with an update for us right now. JT.
And one thing we learned today was a little bit more about the condition of that 2001 excursion after the accident. We heard from NTSB chairman who said that there was definitely evidence of what he called a high energy accident. The engine compartment actually was pushed back a little bit. So that's something that will certainly be examined closely over the next few days, along with a number of other factors. One thing about that excursion that was discovered was the airbag control module. NTSB investigators referred to that as basically the black box for this vehicle. That'll be giving them a lot of information about this accident. And they also said the limo company Prestige had been under scrutiny in the past, and state police used a search warrant and they seized 3 other limos from them in the wake of this tragedy in Schoharie. And we learned more about the owner of the company. State police say the owner of the company is actually not in the country right now. He is in Pakistan. Here's more.
We investigate fatal crashes all the time, year round. But this one is, the magnitude of this one is different for us.
The company's records records of prior crashes, their management of drivers, their fatigue management program, vehicle maintenance.
Just some of the things that the NTSB and state police will be looking at. That's what you just heard listed there. Now, in a tragic twist of fate, we learned today that the passengers in this accident had a previous reservation with a different limo company, but at the last minute that was canceled for some reason, and then they went with Prestige Limo and that 2001 Excursion. We'll have much more from today's news conference coming up at 6:30. Live tonight in Latham, JT Fetch, CBS 6 News.
This new information comes after Governor Cuomo told reporters this morning the limo involved should not have been on the road. CBS 6's Tori Wells is live for us in Schoharie, where the crash happened.
Tori, the governor revealing new details about the limo and the driver today, and you're also trying to get answers from DOT about the road there.
Anna, Greg, I did just learn some new information from DOT, but first, as you mentioned, the governor says that this limo had been inspected just last month and failed. He says it should not have been on the road when it crashed this weekend.
The limo driver was one of the 20 people who died in the crash, and he's been identified as 53-year-old Scott Lisinickia. Scott lived in Lake George and has a fraternal twin brother who lives in Connecticut. Today, I spoke to his twin brother over the phone.
Don't expect to lose your twin brother.
Keith Lisinickia says he and his twin, Scott, were born just 5 minutes apart. He says he got the call Scott was killed the day of the limo crash. Now he says he's planning his twin brother's funeral.
Oh, he's just very easygoing, always thinking of, the other person, hardworking.
Keith tells me Scott took his job as a driver very seriously. He says Scott had driven tractor trailers and dump trucks in the past and would drive for the limousine company periodically when they needed help.
I just know that he was probably just doing his job and trying to get the people to where they're supposed to go and taking whatever car that was given to him, because I know that he always kept his license up. I mean, it was a CDL license, and I know he always made sure that it was valid, and it was.
We have spent this day working on the background of the owner of Prestige Limousine, the company that owned the limousine in the crash. The owner is Malik Shahid Hussein. He was arrested in 2001 and later convicted for helping immigrants fraudulently obtain New York State driver's licenses. In an effort to reduce his sentence, a few years later, he served as an FBI informant in a terror sting operation in Albany targeting 2 mosque leaders. He played the role of a big-time import-export businessman, Islamic radical, and part-time arms dealer. Defendants Mohammed Hossein and Yassin Aref were both convicted of multiple terrorism charges after Malik Hussein's testimony. No one answered when I called the number listed for his company on the DOT's website, but Prestige Limousine did release this statement today through its lawyer. It says, in part, Prestige Limousine extends its deepest condolences to the family members and friends of those who tragically lost their lives on Saturday. It goes on to say, we have voluntarily taken our fleet of vehicles off of the road during the investigation. We have already met with state and federal investigators and plan to do so again, as it is our goal to provide answers as quickly as possible. Well, tonight we continue to learn more about the victims who lost their lives in that devastating crash. We now know 3 more individuals inside the limo. One was an older sister. One worked in the state Senate. Another lived to help others. CBS 6's Lindsay DeLucia is live for us tonight in Amsterdam, where a vigil will be held in the next hour. Lindsay, the magnitude of this crash has affected so many, especially in that city where many of the victims were from.
Greg, it truly has. Yesterday, we learned about 4 sisters who died in this crash. Today, we spoke with more people mourning the loss of a loved one gone far too soon.
I've never felt this type of pain before.
Karina Hals says she got a text message Saturday from her sister, Amanda, letting her know she was getting in a limo to head to Brewery Ommegang for a birthday celebration. Before she could answer, Amanda and 17 others inside that limo lost their lives.
It's been indescribable. I have absolutely no words. I feel like my heart is sunken.
Karina describes her older sister as strong and independent and says there's now a hole in her family.
She definitely held our family together. She was definitely the peacekeeper. Just wanted to make sure everyone was happy.
26-year-old Amanda was inside the limo with her boyfriend, Patrick Cushing, an Amsterdam native. Today, Senate Majority Leader John Flanagan made it known that Cushing was a member of the Senate's Technology Services Unit. He described him as a, quote, extraordinary employee. Another hard worker inside the limo was Amanda Rivenberg.
We lost the heart of our program.
Frank Prevertil describes his associate director at Living Resources as someone who lived to help others.
Amanda was the calm in a sea of chaos, craziness. Amanda kept everybody together.
Rivenberg's co-workers came together at their office today to share memories, laughs, and tears about a colleague who was a friend to all.
It's a true loss, and it's going to be felt for a long time to come. But I think it's what she left us with that is going to help us get through that time.
Now you can see here many people are already arriving at this vigil where these 3 individuals and all 20 victims will be remembered and honored here tonight. My colleague Emily DeFisciani will have more on that coming up at 6:30. We're live in Amsterdam. I'm Lindsay DeLucia, CBS 6 News.
State officials are saying that the limo that crashed in Schoharie had failed inspection and should not have been on the road. CBS 6's Ann McCloy and Tori Wells are tracking the latest on this breaking news right now. But we begin with Ann. She's live at State Police Troop G in Latham, where the family members of the owner of the limo company were interviewed today. Ann.
They were interviewed today, Liz. State police have charged the 28-year-old son of the owner with criminally negligent homicide based on government records that showed the limousine that crashed, killing all of those people, should never have been on the road.
Did you know about the problems with the company?
A media frenzy as family of the limousine owner left the state police headquarters in Latham, where they'd just been questioned by investigators. State police announcing they arrested 28-year-old Naaman Hussein this morning on I-787. Police said Hussein was handed written violations and explained why they charged him with criminally negligent homicide.
That the driver he hired should not have been operating the type of vehicle involved in Saturday's crash. Also, that vehicle was placed out of service by the Department of Transportation in September of this year and should not have been on the road.
Naaman is the son of Shahed Hussein, the owner of Prestige Limousine. State police say Naaman operated the business in the capital region.
The sole responsibility for that motor vehicle being on the road on Saturday rests with Naaman Hussein.
Naaman's girlfriend and brother Harris were with Naaman when he was arrested on the interstate and were released after questioning. They did not stop to answer our questions. Naaman's defense attorney, Lee Kindlin.
My clients are assumed to be innocent. So how do I defend them? Happily and with pride.
Kindlin indicates he was not expecting his client to be arrested.
Unfortunately, what's happened today with the state police jumping the gun on filing charges, frankly, now my criminal defense side has to jump into action. And unfortunately, from this point, I have to advise my clients that it's their right to remain silent.
Kindlin said Naaman has been living in the capital region since he was 3 years old.
He played football at CBA. He runs 3 or 4 different businesses. He renovates homes in Saratoga. This guy's, as Albany as I am.
Kindlin said Naaman had a hand in helping his father operate the company, but said the father had been running the day-to-day operations from Pakistan since before the crash.
The owner wants to make it known that should he need to come back, given some practical health concerns, he's ready, willing, and able to do that.
The attorney for the Husseins say the charge is a Class D felony, which could end up being 1 to 20 counts later on because of the number of victims involved in the crash. Police did not say whether the father, Shahed Hussein, would face charges or if he would be ordered to come back to the United States. Coming up tonight at 6:30, what could be Hussein's possible defense in all this and why the Hussein family is now concerned for their safety. I'm live in Latham. Ann McCloy, CBS 6 News.
One of the owner's sons has now been charged in this case.
And police say this man, Naaman Hussein, was an operator of the business at the time of the crash. He is now charged with criminally negligent homicide. And CBS 6's Tori Wells reports.
Naaman Hussein was arraigned here in Cobleskill Town Court this evening and then released after he posted bail.
You
No.
Nauman Hussein's defense attorney, Lee Kindlon, spoke for him as he left Cobleskill Town Court this evening. Cameras weren't allowed inside during his arraignment. The judge entered a not guilty plea for Hussein on one count of criminally negligent homicide. State police say he was an operator of Prestige Limo when this crash happened, that he hired a driver who didn't have the proper license to operate this vehicle, and that the limo itself shouldn't have been on the road because DOT took it out of service last month. Schoharie County District Attorney Susan Mallory asked for bail to be set at $50,000 cash and for Hussein to surrender any passports. She said she was concerned because his car was packed when he was stopped and taken into custody by police earlier today. Kindlon told the judge he and Hussein would agree to that bail amount and would turn over his passport, but he told the judge his client is not a flight risk, that he was only leaving his home because he felt unsafe. Kindlon says he and Hussein have been receiving death threats.
I will not give dignity to those individuals who think that they can exert some sort of power over this case by quoting the things that have been said. The only thing I have respect for is the process that is now taking place.
Kindlon also thanked police for this heavy police presence as Hussein arrived at court. He said the added security was appreciated. He told reporters earlier in the day that his client is not criminally responsible for what happened and that he thinks the charge was a rush to judgment. He's due back in court here later this month. In Cobleskill, Tori Wells, CBS 6 News.
Thousands of people lit candles tonight in memory of the 20 people who lost their lives in the deadly limousine crash in Schoharie on Saturday.
An emotional gathering in Amsterdam just wrapped up a short time ago. Many of the victims are from that city, but people came from across our region to mourn the tragic loss.
CBS 6's Emily DeFisciani joins us live now. She's at the Mohawk Valley Gateway Overlook. And Emily, it's been a very emotional couple of days, especially for those who knew the victims.
That's right, Liz and JT, and tonight was overwhelming for so many reasons. The sheer number of people that came out, the pain evident on every face, and the realization still sinking in of the magnitude of this terrible tragedy. I think Congressman Paul Tonko said it best tonight when addressing the families and friends of the victims. We're crushed for you, we're crushed with you.
We're all family, the whole community.
When times are tough, family stick together. In Amsterdam tonight, thousands did just that.
When we had a vision of a pedestrian bridge, I thought it would be a great stage by which to grow community. Never in that imagining did I expect that we would gather for a moment like this. So much pain in a very small spot of the world.
Amsterdam may be small, but the city's heart is huge. And right now, that heart is hurting. At tonight's vigil, tears flowed freely and embraces wrapped tight as 20 lives taken in one awful accident were honored.
Everybody knew somebody, some knew a few. I knew just about everybody.
Chris Lanzi says he was closest with Shane McGowan.
Best friend, roommate, brother, basically.
Shane had just married Erin, the love of his life, in June. Both were killed in the crash. Lanzi says he was at their wedding.
We had a fantastic time. We celebrated. We had a great time. We smiled. We laughed. We joked.
Tammy Smith says she knew 4 of the victims in the limo and remembers hearing the devastating news.
I think I screamed. I don't even know if it came out of my mouth.
Smith says she coached softball for the sisters, Allison King, Abby Jackson, Amy Steenberg, and Mary Dyson. She smiles through tears as she remembers them as young girls.
Being little daredevils, stealing bases where they shouldn't have.
Family, friends, neighbors, and strangers are all families sticking together tonight. And they say family can never be taken for granted.
Tell everyone you love them. Don't wait, because you don't know what's going to happen.
There is a second vigil planned for Wednesday night at 6:30 in Schoharie at the high school. We're live tonight in Amsterdam. I'm Emily DeFisciani, CBS 6 News.
Tonight is CBS 6 exclusive. The head of the National Transportation Safety Board is providing a key update now to the investigation into the limo crash in Schoharie County that killed 20 people earlier this month.
The NTSB is among the principal investigating agencies looking into the October 6th crash, along with New York State Police and the State Department of Transportation. The NTSB chairman promised a comprehensive investigation when he was here 3 weeks ago. Tonight, he's back in Washington, D.C. and speaking exclusively with CBS 6's Liz Bishop.
Liz is live for us right now in our nation's capital, standing by with more on this CBS 6 News exclusive. Liz, what did you learn in that sit down?
Well, Ann and Greg, the NTSB chairman, Robert Sumwalt, tells me that the investigation is right on track, even though his people really haven't had a chance to get a thorough look at the limousine. But when I pressed him for specifics on that, what exactly does that mean? He either didn't have the data or he didn't want to speculate.
Well, we at the NTSB really are not in the business of finding fault, of pointing fingers, laying blame, helping lawyers build their cases. The one thing that the NTSB is in the business to do, and that is the prevention of future crashes.
That's the muscle behind NTSB Chairman Robert Sumwalt's promise to do a thorough investigation into the Schoharie limo crash. It also helps to explain why he speaks carefully.
Back in 2016, the DA who was investigating the last big limo crash compared stretch limos to hearses. Do you agree with that?
I'm not going to make that analogy. There's a lot of limousine operators that probably operate very safely in this country.
Prestige limo operator Nauman Hussein is facing criminally negligent homicide charges after state officials say his unauthorized company put an unserviceable vehicle with an uncertified driver on the road. 20 people died in the Schoharie limo crash.
It seems common sense that the seatbelts may have made a difference here, but they may not have. This was a high energy impact, and it may be that seatbelts may not have made a difference. I don't want to speculate on that.
In this case, that data is slow in coming because he doesn't have the limousine. State police do.
Almost every highway crash has a homicide investigation going on in parallel to this. We don't want to get in their way and
Right.
When he does get the vehicle, some of the pieces will end up here in the NTSB laboratory under the microscope. The goal is not just to figure out what went wrong, but what, if anything, should be done differently going forward.
We might want to look at the tires. We might want to look at the airbag control modules.
After the crash, Senator Chuck Schumer demanded that the NTSB investigate every stretch limo crash that's occurred in the U.S. and use the information to recommend safety standards. Sumwalt says there are 7 to 8 million crashes on the roads every year, ranging from fender benders to this limo crash.
We're not notified of the majority of those crashes, nor is there the requirement for us to be notified.
So it would be difficult then to put together the kind of scope of information he's looking for.
Well, that's right.
But Sumwalt does say that if this investigation of his turns up any immediate deficiencies that need addressing right away for public safety, then he would call for an interim emergency report. And he's willing to do that in this case. So we'll be keeping an eye on that.
For the first time tonight, we're hearing from a mother who lost her child in the Schoharie limo crash. Her daughter, Amanda Rivenberg, was one of 18 people riding in the limo. 2 other pedestrians were also killed.
She sat down with CBS 6's Tori Wells this afternoon. Tori, what does she want people to know?
Well, Greg and Anna, as you can imagine, it was not easy for Donna Rivenberg to talk about her daughter today. The pain from this loss is still so fresh. But she told me she wants people to know about Amanda, saying her daughter created a legacy that people who have lived decades longer couldn't even dream of.
This was her as a baby.
Donna Rivenberg wears these snapshots of her daughter Amanda close to her heart, a fitting tribute to a young woman whose kindness is a big part of her legacy.
She had a big heart. She loved people.
And she loved life, experiencing as much of it as she could. An avid sports fan who played softball, cheered competitively, and loved her family, her friends, and her dogs with all she had. Donna says her daughter was always responsible, always a hard worker, and it paid off as she quickly rose in her career, a career spent serving others with living resources.
Her big heart. She just did. The job she had was perfect for her because of that.
We spoke with Donna inside her attorney's office. Her attorneys have filed a civil lawsuit against Prestige Limo, its owner and operator, and plan to take action against New York State as well. She didn't want to speak about those cases, but did tell me she's sharing her daughter's story with the hope that this tragedy is never repeated.
I just want people to know who she was. A life lost too soon. And nobody should have to go through this. There needs to be changes made so that nobody has to go through this.
Nobody should have to go through this. That loss of a mother, just heartbreaking. Donna also told me that one aspect that's so upsetting about this for her is that Amanda and her friends were doing the responsible thing when they hired a limo to drive them, and still, this was the outcome.
It's a story that you will only see right here on CBS 6. The NTSB says time is up for the Schoharie County District Attorney. The agency is demanding access to the limousine that crashed in October, killing 20 people.
That request comes in the form of a letter that charges the DA with preventing the NTSB team from doing its job.
CBS 6's Liz Bishop has this exclusive breaking story and joins us now with more. Liz.
Ann and Greg, the Schoharie County District Attorney confirmed for me receipt of this letter from the NTSB. It is a very strongly worded request for access to the Ford Excursion limousine involved in the crash that took 20 lives. It's dated December 14th and signed by the NTSB's general counsel. Its conclusion is especially damning, telling the district attorney, quote, "We are gravely concerned that your lack of responsiveness to our requests has seriously impeded our abilities to carry out our congressionally mandated duties to properly complete this safety investigation and potentially prevent similar accidents in the future." It was almost 2 months ago that the chairman of the NTSB told me himself he expected to have access to the vehicle within a week to 10 days of our October interview. I spoke to the DA by phone this afternoon.
The letter to Schoharie County DA Susan Mallory reminds her that the 2-month anniversary since the crash has come and gone. It states that the NTSB modified the way it does business to accommodate the needs of the criminal investigation, but the NTSB's congressionally mandated safety investigation, however, cannot be hindered any further. According to the letter, the NTSB has been able to do some information gathering, but the delays you imposed have denied the NTSB access to the primary essential evidence, resulting in safety-critical evidence being lost. Since the crash on October 6th, Prestige limousine operator Nauman Hussein was charged with criminally negligent homicide. State police maintain his unauthorized company put an unserviceable vehicle with an uncertified driver on the road. His attorney and the state police have scoured the Ford Excursion since. The DA says she doesn't have the authority to release it. Can you understand their frustration?
You have to understand that, again, this is a piece of evidence in a criminal investigation. It's the court order the New York State Police has an obligation to follow, and they're doing that.
The letter goes on to say the NTSB team has been denied access to the crash vehicle, the other vehicles operated by the company, and relevant reports and records. It included a list of outstanding requests that have yet to be met, including immediate access to the vehicle and other impounded Prestige limos, along with protective storage of the limo and all its parts. The DA says NTSB investigators have been here at least 3 or 4 times. She says she was grateful that they wanted to enclose the limo in a shed to protect it from the elements. This is a very strong letter, and you're being singled out for unresponsiveness and hindering their investigation. Do you have any response to that?
It's completely untrue. We've had ongoing investigations. We welcome their willingness to maintain and provide a shed. But again, it's the court that holds the evidence, and I'm not going to violate any court order.
The letter also raises the concern that key perishable safety investigative information may have been lost because you denied the NTSB the necessary access. The concern was that the team might no longer be able to evaluate vehicle corrosion, which can help reveal the condition of the brakes or the status of the vehicle's electrical system at the time of the crash. Her response was immediate.
Absolutely not. We have experts who have advised us, and we follow the directions of our experts.
We did learn in the letter some areas of interest to the NTSB investigators. The occupiable space inside the limo, structural modifications, powertrain components, steering and brake systems. DA Mallory told me that access to other prestige limos is something she can work out, but said she preferred not to negotiate with the NTSB through me.